Okay, here we go. The Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave, Part 2. As promised, Part 2. So, as you come into the room, if you can please hit the like button, the subscribe button. See, when you hit the like button, it raises the algorithms. When you hit the like button, it lets YouTube know that you like the video, and it makes the video algorithm raise up so people can see this video. So if this content is valuable, you're connecting with it, it resonates with you, please hit that like button. That is very important. Gratitude. I have a chat over here if you're interested in the super chat, where you can donate for the knowledge or you can participate in the super chat, the memberships also. So just letting you know different ways you can support the content. But okay, if you have been on board with the Willie Lynch letter, we started out with part one. So make sure you go watch part one if you have not seen the Willie Lynch letter, part one, Bad Spiritual Situations. Okay, so this is part two. So in part two, we talk about these methods have been worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. So he was administering his programming or administering a, he was installing a programming, okay? So it say, let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of the slave holders to study human nature. So the slaveholders do what? They study human nature. So the business of slavery is built up off of studying human nature. Okay? So studying human nature is what is going to get you out of slavery. Why? Because you become aware of human nature. Because human nature is used as a weapon against you. See? In the last live, we spoke about how anxiety is a weapon that is used to enslave people. We talked about how trauma is a weapon that is used to enslave people. We also spoke about how um, keeping people in a constant state of confusion causes you to keep people enslaved, right? Because when you're in a constant state of confusion, that's war. The etymology of the word war is confusion. So if you constantly get someone to stay in a state of confusion, then you're altering their mind. You're controlling their mind, and controlling people is what is oppressing them. Controlling people is what's enslaving them. Okay, so Willie Lynch says, let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of the slaveholders to study the human nature, and the slave nature in particularly, with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiencies in this direction. They had to deal not with the earth, not with wood, not with stone, but with men, and by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong, they were every hour perpetuating and knowing what them themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs, they were constantly looking for the first signs of dreaded retribution. They watched Therefore, with skill and practice eyes and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and the heart of a slave through his sable face, unusual sobriety, and apparent abstractions, sullenness, indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicious and inquiry. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a melanated woman. No, we need a melanated man and a pregnant melanated woman and her melanated baby. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring. We break that. We break that natural string of independence. We break that natural mindset to take care of your offsprings. We break that ability to think for yourself. We break that independence. We break that. Break your nature, you know? So then it says, from them, thereby the creative dependency status, so that we may be able to get from the useful production of for our business and pleasure, for fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both the beast and the melanated person together. And the horse, we understand that the short range planning economics results in pure, periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid the turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breath and depth in the long range, comprehensive planning and agriculture, articulating both. So they put into place comprehension planning. So that's a plan and an agenda. We know that it's a plan and it's an agenda that is a form of manifestation, right? When you start learning how to do magic, you learn that in magic, you use your intentions, you make your intentions aware, you do your moon rituals and your sun rituals, and you actually manifest things, right? So you can create things with your intentions, whether they're good things or whether they bad things. You still could create things with your intentions. So you have to think, if it's a plan that's put in place to keep these people enslaved, there are going to be rituals that are put in place to keep these people enslaved. They're going to be um, rituals performed, right? Um, it say we hold the six cardinal principles as truth to be self-evident, based upon the following: the discourse concerning the economics of breaking and trying the horse and the melanated together, all exclusive of the six principles laid down about neither principle alone, will suffice for good economics. Although the principles must be employed for orderly, good, and let's get here, y'all. Wait, my bad. Hold on, hold on. Let me get to the making of the breaking process of the woman. So they broke the man. Why did they break down the man? They mentally broke the man down because wherever the man goes, the body will follow. So if someone is to break your man down mentally, that will have a physical effect on you. Why? Because wherever the man goes, the body follows. So that is also psychological warfare to attack your mind. That is also biological warfare when you attack somebody's mind because you're attacking their biology. You're attacking their ancestry. You're attacking their chronology. I can't even think of the correct word of chronologically. You're affecting them. Um, when they broke the woman, so they broke the man because the man also carries the seed. So if you want to break a race of people, then you want to splice the seed. You want to genetically modify the seed. You want to genetically tamper with the seed. So the seed of Abraham, the seed was tampered with. How was the seed tampered with? The seed was tampered with when the man was broken in, because you got to think too, the man was also sent to the buck breaking forums. Make sure you go see my buck breaking forum video if you are not aware of the buck breaking forums. Okay, so the buck breaking forum, this is where the man is actually broken down mentally, physically, and spiritually. And when this man goes through this transformation, it changes his DNA or his DEA. So once he changes his genetic biology, once he changes this man's genetic biology, this man will become a new being. Because he has actually been alchemized. He has actually changed his chemistry. So you have to think, when they take us through the buck breaking process, when they are breaking our men, they are actually changing who they are, changing their identity, changing what is inscripted inside of their blood that was passed down from generation to generation. Okay, so when we talk about this, when we speak on these generational curses and things that have been passed down genetically, this is what we're speaking about, because it's being passed down through the seed, the heir to the throne, the son. Because your son passes on all the genetic material in the family. The son is the family jewels. Right? People say their son is the family jewels because through your son will have a wife and your son will create a family. Because a woman cannot have a baby without her son, right? Okay, so that gives the son the birthright to be the heir to the throne. That gives the son the heir. And the son's legitimate children become the heirs to their father's thrones, right? Okay, so when we talking about heirs, we're talking about kingdoms, we're talking about dynasties, right? We're talking about pharaoh, sovereignty, and all of this is against slavery, right? Because you can't enslave someone who is sovereign. You can't enslave a royal monarchy that's inside your DNA. You can't enslave that. But if I control your mindset and I control what you know and I control what you think and I control what you have access to, then I can control your reality. Why? Because I can control your mind. Your mind is the most powerful human tool that we have. So that was the whole concept of the Willie Lynch letter, was to break the minds of the people. So that is how we were put into what we call slavery, by having our mentalities broken up. So now we live in mental states and mental statuses, such as being black. That's a mental status. That's also that's a casting system, being black, because they classified us, a classification system, right? But anyway, I don't want to get off the subject. I want to stay on board talking about the Willie Lynch letter and how we are affected by this Willie Lynch syndrome to this day, because they created slave mentalities within our mindsets. And a lot of us live and dwell within these slave mentalities. And it is very difficult for us to get out of these slave mentalities because they become invisible. And a lot of us can't see that we live inside of slave mentalities. We live in a virtual slave quarters. You know, this is a mental thing, spiritual. Um, they broke the woman. So once they broke the man, they broke the woman. So when they broke the woman, they knew that if they can get the woman to not depend on the man, that's nature, right? Because they studied our human nature. And they knew that the man was a mighty hunter, right? So if the man was a mighty hunter, what did they do? They separated the woman and the man from each other, right? They turned the woman and the man against each other. So now the woman is dependent on the system to feed her, instead of the man, which is the warrior and the mighty hunter. Okay? So now he is no longer in his role as mighty hunter and mighty warrior. So he can't protect you anymore. Right? So women feel unprotected. So he can't feed you anymore. So women are desperate, hungry, struggling. Right? You see how that is created within us, because they took away our man. They took away our provider. They took away our natural way of order. You have to understand, this has everything to do with natural order. And they turned us against our natural order and our natural ways of doing things. So we became lost. And now we are going against nature. Now that's not right, going against nature. Because nature is life. Nature is biology. Nature is the biokingdom. Right? So we not supposed to go against nature. We supposed to be one with nature. So you see how they got us off our square. You see how they got us out of alignment with who we really truly need to be. Okay, so with this being said, with the Willie Lynch letter, when they broke the woman, they knew that inside of this woman's womb is every person that ever existed is inside of this woman's womb, because this womb is filled up with ovaries. The ovaries are the stars. The stars are the celestials. The celestials is the womb. The womb is the heavens. So everybody is in the heavens, and everybody is connected to the heavens. So when you curse a woman, you are cursing the earth. You are cursing the heavens. You are cursing the celestial beings. So now that we have these curses upon the earth, which is the woman, we have this separation upon the earth, which is within the woman. We have this division created in the earth, right? The division between woman and man, right? The division between man, woman, and child. That broke our bonds. That broke our natural way of life. That broke our family dynamics. Do you understand why the Willie Lynch syndrome is so severe and how it is so detrimental on our people? But people don't understand what it is and how it affects us. They actually came together and congregated in order to make a slave. So I want to read some rest of this passage for you before I end this here. Okay, so let's go. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. So as far as a melanated woman, they're going to run tests on you to see if you can submit. You're constantly going to be targeted so they can run tests on you to see if you will submit. Why is it important to get the melanated woman to submit? Why is it so important to get the woman to submit? And the reason I'm specifying that it's the melanated woman because they specified it first. I'm just pointing it out. That in the Willie Lynch letter, it targeted the melanated woman. So I'm just pointing out the fact that why is the melanated woman targeted? Because everyone comes from the melanated woman. Okay, all life comes from her. Okay, so if you are going to have a biological attack on the people, you would go for their mother. Okay, I understand that. Okay, so it says here, so it says, completely to, wait a minute, completely to your will. Do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of resistance out of her. Take not to unalive her. For doing so, you'll spoil your good economics. When in complete submission, she will be trained. She will train her offsprings in early years to submit to the labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female. We have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state. She would have strong dependency on the uncivilized male. She would have a limited protective tendencies towards her independent male offsprings and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed nature by burning and pulling a civilization of melanated people apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence, by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. So they destroyed the image of a strong man in her mind. They destroyed the image of a warrior. They destroyed the image of a man that was going to come save her. They destroyed the image of a man doing anything for her because that's psychological warfare between a woman and a man. This is the Willie Lynch letter, right? Okay, so the state to a frozen independent state. So they use psychology to have us psychologically frozen in fear. So we became frozen in the independent state. So we became frozen in the state that put us inside of a handicap. So we became crippled and we needed help. And we became insufficient. And we became dependent. And we became needy and, things like that. So this is how they create problems and solutions in your life. So they give you the problem and the solution. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to mentally be weak and dependent, but physically strong. So they use the women to program them to have men that are mentally weak and dependent but physically strong. So that's pretty much what we look at men for, to move this, pick this up, put that over there. You know, can you come fix my light? Can you paint this? You know, we want them to do physical things. This is why a lot of women walk around with the mentality that they don't need a man. They just need a man to do heavy lifting and do man type of stuff. That's what we call it, man stuff. See the division. Okay? Um, you got the melanated woman out front and the melanated man behind, scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to alertly on the guard at all times. So they broke the man to be weak. The man not gonna protect us. He gonna stand behind us. He not gonna be dependent. He gonna depend on us. He's not gonna be independent. He gonna be dependent on us. So they broke this man's mind to make this man undesirable. They broke this man in front of us to program in our DEA that we don't need these men. So this is psychological programming. This is psychological war. So until we really go over this and really understand how deep this is, we can't start the healing process. Now we sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool and now ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time a boy reaches the age 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long lifetime of sound, efficient work and reproductive of a unit of good labor and force through the breaking of uncivilized, savage, melanated by throwing the melanated female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence by killing the protective male image and by creating a submissive dependent mind of the man slave. We have created the orbiting cycle that turns on its axis forever. Useless. Unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and the females, we show that we mean by example take the case of the two economic slave units and examine them closely. So, as far as making of a slave, they made it and programmed through our DEA. They actually programmed us psychologically, put us in psychological mental states, put us in psychological mental statuses to where we couldn't even think of our own. We became blind in our mind, unable to see things for what they are. And now we unaware of what is going on deeply in our communities, but we've been programmed. We've been programmed to be dependent. We've been programmed to be weak-minded. We've been programmed not to think for ourselves, speak up for ourselves, say things. So this means we have to do a lot of reprogramming because we were made and programmed into being slaves. Slavery is a programming. And unless you unhook from the programming, you're going to stay attached to it. So gratitude for tapping in, watching the Willie Lynch letter, part 2, the making of a slave, understanding how slaves are made, understanding how this is all psychological war, understanding how war is confusion of the mind. And when you're dealing with the mind, it is psychology. So we're just healing. We healing. So make sure if you haven't watched the Buck Breaking Forum, you really go watch the Buck Breaking Forum to thoroughly understand what happens on these Buck Breaking Forums. So you can understand what happened to our men and how their DEA was altered, so you can really understand this video. Also, make sure that you really go understand that we are inside our mother's skin. And our mother's skin was inherited from her mother, who inherited from her mother, and her mother, and her mother, and so on and so forth. So the skin that we in has a lot of power, generational power. So understand that this is a thick skin that you in, an ancient skin. So I will talk to you beautiful souls real soon. Peace. I will be making a part 3 to this video. And part 3 will be the marriage of the melanated being according to Willie Lynch and the tactics that was used. So there will be a part 3 to this video. So I will see y'all later on part 3. Okay, peace.